So in this lesson, I wanted you to make a spreadsheet for part 3, and I have a starter sheet, or you could retype this table right here. So we started building that together in class. Zoom out on this a bit. And I recommended to make these calculations here. The formula for mean is equals average. And maybe your spreadsheet will suggest add the numbers above or average the numbers above. If not, you put a parentheses and then you highlight the numbers above, close your parentheses, hit enter. This is not something we can fill down because the next one is median. So equals median, select it or type it, highlight the numbers above, but don't highlight the mean, that will screw things up. Close parentheses, enter, and mode is just equals mode, highlight the numbers. And sometimes there isn't a mode. Mode is the most frequently occurring number. There are no repeated numbers in this list right here. So yeah, so that's what I was going to show next. So once you type those 3 there, you highlight the 3 of them and then let go. And then you grab the bottom corner. There should be a little dot there or a square. Click that and drag it over as far as you need to. And then that'll calculate all of them for you. And I calculated a couple of extra because we need to do a mystery group. And then we're going to do it again for part 4. So I'm going to go over how I do each of those. All right, so that quickly gives me all of the numbers. On the version in the worksheet, this number was blank. And so we had to backtrack to figure out what it was. So reminder about how we did that. So this bottom number here, oops, that's not the pen, again, there. That number right there is the mean. And remember, the mean is always the sum of the number divided by the count. Right? So we know the mean is 500. We know the count is 6. So how would we get the sum? And we just multiply 500 by 6. Gives us 3,000. So if I have 6 numbers, the mean is 500. The sum of all the numbers has to be 3,000. All right, so in class, we just took each of these numbers away from 3,000, and whatever was left gave us the missing number, which was 460. Okay. Now, knowing the sum is really a good thing for troubleshooting other situations because we can use that information.
You could also, it's less than 480 or more than 410, or less than.
Yeah, because these are in order, right? We know it's got to be in between 410 and 480. Yeah, so you could kind of guess and check that way too. Yeah, so there's a few different strategies you can employ to get that to come up. All right, so we have that already in the spreadsheet. What I next want to do is do the mystery group here. So if you didn't already do this, we need to create 6 numbers whose mean is 500. Part C of the exercise asked us to do that. So, and I want it to be different than all of these here, right? So I already have the average formula there. I know I want it to be 500, so there's at least 2 strategies you could use. One would be just start putting numbers in that are going to add up to 3,000. Right? So on your calculator, you could keep taking the numbers away from 3,000 till you're out, or you could just guess and check as you go. So like if I know I want the mean to be 500, I can start by putting 500 in here, and then I can play around with numbers to keep getting the 500 there. So what I do is pick 2 more numbers that add up that are going to average out to 500. So maybe I'm going to do 400 and 600. And I could repeat numbers if I want to, but the next trick I have to do is I have to deal with 3 numbers that are going to get me what I want. Now total, I've got 1,500 here, which means if I know the sum has to be 3,000, I just need 3 numbers that add up to 1,500. Okay. So I could do something like 700 and another 700. That's 1,400, and then I could throw 100 down here. Right? There's a million different possibilities. You can just play around. So there's a lot of different ways to come up with ways to make that happen. So this is just one of thousands of different sets of 6 numbers that are going to have a mean and average of 500. Questions? So we got most of that covered last time. I left it up to you last time to come up with a group of numbers. For part 4, we wanted to come up with 5 numbers whose mean was 611 and whose median was 47. And I blocked off this one so I don't accidentally put something there. So what could I do to figure that out? Well, I could take a similar strategy to what I did over here. Start guessing at numbers. Now,
You want to do that part 4 too?
yeah. So part 4 doesn't have to be done on a spreadsheet, but I'm going to do it on a spreadsheet because it's going to check as I work, which I like. So let's look back at what part 4 said. Part 4 said in 2012, college freshmen had a mean debt of 611 and a median of 47 for their credit cards. And so we want to come up with a list of 5 debts for college freshmen that are going to end up giving us those 2 numbers. So a lot of ways to play with this. If I use that whole idea that the mean is always the sum over the count, then I know what the total of the numbers has to be, right? What does it have to be?
611 times 5.
Yeah, so we have 611. We don't know what the sum is yet, but we know there's 5 numbers, so the sum has to be 611 times 5. So I'm going to put that into my spreadsheet. So sum equals 611 times 5. Yeah, so we have to have 5 numbers who add up to that. And what do we want the middle number to be? We want the middle number to be 47. So right away, I'm just going to put 47 in there. And then I have to start putting numbers on each side of it. So again, I'm going to put them in order. So some numbers are going to be less, some numbers are going to be more. So I want 2 numbers less, 2 numbers more. The sum has to be 3,055. So you just need to play around with numbers and make that happen. So I'm going to pause here and let you play with that if you haven't finished it already.
Easy peasy.
So here's one possible set of numbers there. I'm just going to delete them and start over. So I put some helpers in here to keep me on track. So over here, I know I want the sum to be 3,055 because that is 5 times 611. So I put a formula here that says equals sum, just add up all the numbers I type in here. So that's just going to keep track of my sum as I go. Or you can keep track of what's left over from the 3,000. So right away, I know I want the middle number to be 47, so I'm going to put a 47 in there. And then let's see, maybe I want to kind of deal with that 55 right away. So I could do something like, let's see, if I add 3 to 47, that gets me up to 50. And if I added 8, that would get me up to 55. So then I have to get 3 numbers that add up to 3,000 to finish this off. So I could do something like, what could I do? How about 2,000? We have a really big one. And then I have 1,000 left to go. And so maybe I put, how about if I put 500 here, oops, sorry, if I put 1,000 here, that's a problem because then I have that empty spot. Is that a big deal?
Yeah.
Not really, because I could do something like move the 8 here and put a 0 there. Maybe one of them has no debt, right? That would work. Or I could do something like leave the 8 there, maybe put 10 here. And so then I have to take away 10 from 1,000, so 990. And again, there's a ton of different answers. I could mess around all day and come up with different ones. But the keys are, if I want the mean to be 611, that means the sum total of all the numbers has to be 3,055. And I know 47 is got to be the middle number. And then I can use that to just kind of mess around and come up with other numbers. So a researcher at Acme Grocery studied how long customers had to stand in the checkout line. One day, 35 customers spent 7.7 minutes on average. The next day, 24 customers spent 6.5 minutes each. What's the overall average? So this is just a weighted average. So if you didn't already come up with this one here, all we do is take the amount times the average. Here we go. So 35 customers times 7.7, that would be the total amount of time on that one day those customers spent in line. And then the next day, 24 times 6.5 minutes, that would be the total amount the next day's customers stood in line. So this gives us the total time. Right? Number of people times the average always gives you the total. Now, that's the total time. I want to figure out the new average. So then I just divide by the total number of minutes. So that would be the weighted average for this data. Whip that out on a calculator and tell me what it means.